Good afternoon and welcome to the latest edition of Stargate Sci-Fi Cult Classics franchise documentary. I'm delighted this evening to be joined by the one and only Sarah Navratil, who played the role of Eva Reinhardt in Stargate Origins 2018, which was a mini sort of TV series, but also a feature film as well. Sarah, I suppose the Stargate Origins adventure began for you, I suppose, in terms of casting, in terms of filming back in 2017. I suppose in one sense it's only been like 3 years, but in another sense, does it almost feel like a decade or so now?
I think more so now than ever. Yes, it feels like it's been forever. But yeah, like you said, it's only been 2 years. So I guess not too terribly long, actually.
And Sarah, I suppose being an actress, I suppose in terms of Stargate, it has a sort of cult following all over the world in terms of sci-fi. The character Richard Dean Anderson played, Jack O'Neill, is probably known all over the world. And one thing that struck me talking to Ellie so far and talking to Elam is when they auditioned for the role, in terms of the secrecy of the film, that they didn't know they really were auditioning for a Stargate type of movie. They knew what the bones of what the movie was about in terms of ancient Egypt and Nazis, but they didn't obviously make the link to Stargate. Was that along the similar lines for you in terms of that sort of secrecy?
Yeah, 100%. I had no idea actually what it was for. I knew the casting director, Jamie Radowski, as I had literally just started class with her. I think I'd been like maybe one class in. She was teaching at BGB Studios in Los Angeles. And I think from that one class, she knew that I spoke German. And I think that's how I kind of got in for the audition, to be honest. But when we did, we all had dummy sides, so nothing from the actual script. It was either completely made up sides, or I believe there was a couple that may have been pulled from like other TV shows or movies, but nothing from the actual script. So we had no idea what it was we were actually auditioning for. I just kind of had a bit of a character description, which was based off of Leni Riefenstahl, which was she was an actress, kind of filmmaker, back in that time. She's known for doing the movie, some of the documentaries, unfortunately, from the Hitler era. So all I kind of knew was that the character was kind of loosely based on her, and that was it.
So in terms of that, so you probably thought it was an ancient Egypt sort of movie in terms of Henry Carter, in terms of Tutankhamun, and in terms of Nazi sort of raiding Egypt for its treasures, in terms of Rommel and sort of North Africa and the quest on. And in terms of doing your research for a role, then were you delving back into sort of the history of the 1940s in terms of Germany, in terms of ancient sort of Egypt? And obviously there are movies where they delve into that in terms of Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford. Did you sort of veer away from that sort of route in terms of doing your research? Was it more real life research in terms of what went on back in 1940s in Germany that you wanted to portray your character in, or did you look at the movie scenes as well?
No, you kind of hit it on the head. I pretty much took that little bit of information that was given to me and went down that rabbit hole. So I did a lot of research on that character, kind of that time period, on some of like the camera movements and stuff that she was known for. And then I just kind of worked on my dialect, to be honest. And I think it was a monologue actually that they had sent me, which had nothing to do with the story, to be honest. I couldn't even 100% tell you what the monologue was about anymore, but I know it didn't have anything to do with even that like time frame or anything, that era. So I mostly just kind of focused on what she was saying in the piece and on the character that I was kind of modeling it after. That's pretty much all I had to go on.
And I suppose, Sarah, just speaking to Elam, he mentioned the audition process was a rigorous sort of one for him in terms of numerous auditions, terms of numerous readings and stuff like that with other sort of portrayal sort of cast members, and he said he actually read with you and sort of different Evas and sort of different Ellas. And was it a rigorous process for you to sort of land a role as Eva Eva Reinhardt in Stargate Origins? Was it a long ordeal?
Yeah, they did kind of follow all of the basic steps. I think the very first thing we did was at least myself, I put myself on tape for the role originally. And then they had us back in for kind of a callback chemistry read, which is where I met Elam. And we read together, and I read with a couple of other people that they kind of had up for his role as well. So it was mostly, those two characters that were reading opposite each other. Quite a few different people. And there was kind of a lot of improv and stuff too, which was kind of a nice kind of change for an audition. So we had, of course, kind of a loose script, but they were very open to us kind of playing within those confines a little bit, which was really fun. But it was a good solid day, I'd say. Yeah, we were there for a chunk of time. So.
And Sarah, when you did actually land the role and you heard it was going to be a Stargate sort of movie, did memories flash back to you in terms of 1995, in terms of Kurt Russell, in terms of
Yes.
James Spader, in terms of that sort of movie? And then obviously you're thinking SG-1, Richard Dean Anderson. Did all that sort of pop into your head straight away when you heard the word Stargate?
Yeah, I actually really know about I'm a huge fan of the original Stargate movie. I grew up with that because of my father, who loved all things sci-fi. So I remember that, that name clicked into my head so quick. I knew exactly what we were doing because we watched that movie growing up all the time, along with the original Star Trek and original Star Wars movies. He was really, really into all of those. So I was so excited when we actually figured out what it was that we would be doing. I think we were all really excited to see the gate, which was pretty epic. I remember when we walked into the warehouse and saw how they had set everything up for the first time. That really sticks in my mind as kind of watching them build that. But yeah, I was psyched. The second I heard it, I was like, oh, this is something my dad's going to be really proud of.
Sarah, I suppose it was a unique sort of twist because there was no Nazis as we know in the first sort of Stargate movie, but certain elements of it is definitely in Stargate sort of origin. So obviously you were trying to portray your sort of German sort of character as such. And did you when you hear the word Stargate, then are you sort of tempted to sort of look into that genre, or is it kind of be a distraction, kind of get away from your sort of character that you sort of focus and zero in on?
Yeah, I didn't do too much into kind of all of the different series and stuff like that. I kind of stuck with what I knew from the original. I did rewatch that and then just really focused on the script that they had given me because that was all kind of a prequel to what is already out there, right? So I focused more on that and just kind of getting the flavor of what I had seen and what I loved so much from Stargate. And then just focused more on the actual character because she's brand new in the world of Stargate. It wasn't something that I had to kind of craft after a previous actor or actress or anything like that.
I suppose the whole issue of propaganda was under fascism and under Nazis Germany in the 1930-40. We know Goebbels, Hermann Goebbels, was very much driven that sort of thing. So in terms of your character, in terms of that sort of real sort of propaganda, that sort of real sort of Nazi heroic sort of thing, do you find that sort of looking back at sort of old sort of memories to sort of hype up that sort of tension, because it was really sort of hardcore sort of what was it, sort of censorship of the media in terms of what they sort of spewed out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did do a little bit of looking into that, and especially, the few kind of propaganda movies that Lenny had made. And I think what was really interesting as I was crafting that character, was kind of finding a line between someone who really loved what she did because of the art of it, and then when you realize that you've maybe taken it too far and you're backing something that is not what you had originally thought it would be, you know? So it was kind of finding that line between the character who was an artist and loved the camera and was so excited to be part of this really epic new journey, but also coming to terms with the person that she kind of followed into this world, and that he wasn't the person that she really originally thought he was.
And I suppose that Eva, that brings us on, as you mentioned there, your sort of mutual sort of attraction in terms of the character Brooke, in terms of his sort of ideology, in terms of Germany, the Aryan sort of race, the age sort of discovery, and you would put your character basically had similar interests, and that sort of sparked on and off sort of romantic sort of tensions. And in terms of that sort of ideaism as well, in terms of the characters, were you able to sort of be able to sense the connection between Eva and Brooke?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was something that we kind of worked on a lot, is what kind of was their relationship, because it wasn't really on the page so much. We had to kind of figure that out for ourselves. And I think she was somebody who was really kind of in awe of this character, this person a little bit, in these kind of amazing things that he was doing. But then as you kind of follow through in the story, and Brücke, kind of starts showing his colors, especially in terms of the team that they brought with them as well. I think that enchantment kind of went away a little bit, and she realized that this person was more of a monster than she thought he was.
And I suppose, Sarah, in terms of the reaction now when the movie sort of came out, and in terms of the tapping into that sort of Stargate fan base, that sort of franchise, a huge following in terms of conventions, in terms of interviews, in terms of, were you sort of taken back by the sort of cult sort of following? Because obviously you wanted to reel in that sort of audience that was already in existence in terms of your movie and series, and to try and keep them sort of satisfied in terms of the project that you were making.
Mm-hmm. I had no idea. It was fantastic. I remember we went to ComicCon, which is where we kind of aired the movie, was at ComicCon that year, and just seeing how many people came out and were really excited and kind of dressed up, and it was so amazing to be a part of that and just see that there's such a group of people that love something so much. I think with like any kind of series or movies or something that have such a base, I think you're always worried that you're going to kind of please people or not. And I know you can never please everybody. It's kind of half and half. So hopefully we did something that was kind of fun, gave everybody something to enjoy, and maybe started that fan base again for the next kind of movie, because I know that they are always kind of hoping for something new to kind of be revived, another TV series or another movie or something. So I hope it gave it some momentum for, kind of Hollywood to realize that people really love this, and that they should bring it back. There's a huge base that would love to see that.
And I suppose, Sarah, before I let you go, I'll probably finish with the hardest question that I'm going to ask you now today in this interview. In terms, let's pretend there was a Stargate sort of franchise encyclopedia, and they put your character Eva Reinhardt in that encyclopedia, and they left 2 blank sentences under her name in terms of the description, and they asked you, Sarah Navratil, having played that character Eva Reinhardt, to write those 2 sentences to portray her. What would you like those 2 sentences to read?
Oh, this is a hard question. Man, you should have let me prep for this question. Okay.
Aaron was on before and he gave me practically a paragraph, so he went over the 2 sentences for that.
Did he? It was longer. It was a couple paragraphs. That's a true Elam thing. That doesn't surprise me. He's so funny. For her, I would probably say Eva Reinhardt, strong, powerful, independent, misguided.
Strong, powerful, independent, and misguided. Sarah Navratil, a pleasure talking to you today to relive your memories of your time on Stargate Origins, playing the role of Eva Reinhardt in our special Stargate franchise sci-fi cult classic documentary. A Stargate Origins, a big part of the Stargate universe, part of its legacy as such that is still going very strong. You were part of that legacy going back all the way back in terms of 1995, so 25 years. So as the saying goes, once you're part of the furniture, you'll always be part of the furniture. So Sarah, a pleasure talking to you today. Thanks for sharing your stories and memories. And hopefully it's not the last time that you will feature in terms of Stargate going forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I hope to see Stargate again at some point too.
Cheers. Thank you, Sarah.
Bye.